Welcome back. If you're just joining us, remember this is Health and Wellness. My name is Zaitun Ali. And in case you want to talk to us on our social media platforms at KTN Home _ on IG, on X, and on Facebook at KTN Home. And also our WhatsApp line 0759434389. We still have our specialist here in studio. The topic of discussion has been recent advances in management of fertility, to be specific, IVF. And it is at this point that Dr. Shaunak Kandwala, who is a clinical director, IVF, Fertility Point Kenya, and also Dr. Rajesh, who is a consultant, IVF consultant to be specific, from Fertility Point Kenya as well. And they're going to explain to us what we mean by IVF. Yes. And before the break, Rajesh, you had taken charge of this session. You can just continue to just give us a brief of what IVF is and what are some of the breakthroughs that this type of treatment has brought about in this condition of infertility.
So IVF is basically bypassing the limitation that a couple has. Basically the reason for IVF which a couple need to go for is when there is a problem in achieving pregnancy naturally or through some traditional method, even when IUI fails. So when a couple has, when a woman has a problem in fallopian tube, so she's not able to conceive naturally. So in IVF, we take out the egg from ovary directly through a needle.
And even before going through the process, what does IVF mean, to be specific? And you've also mentioned IUI. So the difference between those two as you now get into
So IVF is in vitro fertilization, where in vitro means outside the body. So we are doing the fertilization process outside the body.
Good.
So inside the body, it happens in fallopian tube, where the fallopian tube, after the ovulation, the egg is being picked by the fallopian tube.
Yes.
And when there is a problem in the fallopian tube, either because of the blockage, or when the fallopian tube is not able to pick the egg from the ovary after its release, it could be because of the surgery also, where the topographic relation between the ovary and the fallopian tube is disturbed by some scarring or some infection reason. So in that situation, the fallopian tube fails to pick the egg. So the fertilization doesn't happen. Or if the sperm count is very low, which is not capable of fertilizing the egg, or not able to reach at the fallopian tube because of its poor motility. So, or if the previous IUI is failed, yeah. So in that condition, we advise them to go for IVF.
Okay.
Right. So, so in IVF, we target for, we give first prepare the ovary so that it can grow some good number of follicles, and then those follicles are aspirated through a fine needle after giving a patient a short anesthesia, and then eggs are collected. Now, once eggs are collected, the sperms are prepared,
yes,
which can be either frozen before or the freshly collected, and then that egg is either traditionally fertilized. Now, those eggs and sperms are put in a dish, and eggs and sperms are allowed to fertilize, which is IVF. Now, ICSI is something when the sperm is poor, or fertilization before IVF was failed because of poor fertilization. We force the sperm to through a needle. We inject inside the egg.
Really?
Yeah. So that is called ICSI, intracytoplasmic injection of a sperm. So that is IVF. Now, after the injections of the sperm in an egg, we keep it in an incubator. So in incubator, it remains for 2 to 5 days, and then that that is supposed to get fertilized after 20 hours, and then that is being monitored by the embryologist over the period of 3 to 5 days. Right?
So 20 hours, the fertilization can take place in 20 hours?
Yeah. Somewhere between 17 to 20 hours, it is supposed to be fertilized.
Okay. Okay. And then after that?
And then after that, we select an embryo, 2 to 3 good embryo, and then we do the embryo transfer in the womb lining.
Okay.
So after the transfer, we give a medicine to support the pregnancy, and after 14 days, we do a pregnancy test. That is called IVF or ICSI. Now, IUI is something like a natural process.
In full is?
Sorry? IUI is intrauterine insemination.
Okay.
So insemination means inseminating the sperm, washed sperm inside the uterus at the time of ovulation. So again, the woman is given medicine to make ensure that there is a ovulation. So it is recommended for someone who has a ovulation problem. But there is a prerequisite that the fallopian tube should be patent, and the sperm should not be too low, not capable of doing fertilization. So IUI is more or less like a natural cycle.
Okay.
So we assist the couple by just giving advantage to the sperm by inseminating it just few centimeters ahead of the in natural process. The sperm get deposited in the upper vagina, but in IUI we bypass the cervix. So even a mild poor sperm can have that advantage.
Okay, that makes sense. Dr. Shonak, I'd like to ask what goes into selecting the sperms and also identifying that this patient can do the IVF and it becomes successful. So what goes to that process of choosing, okay, this one can do it, this one cannot, and what sperms can we inseminate, which ones cannot? So just that whole process.
So actually, as he was mentioning, the sperm parameters are very important. So if the sperm count is something 10 million or below, then you have to resort to IVF.
Okay.
You can't do IUI. Also, having said that, IUI, the prerequisite is that the sperm parameters have to be normal. It should be something with the woman, that is unexplained infertility or ovulatory issues, and the tubes have to be patent, as he said. So if the tubes are open, only then IUI can succeed. Sperm count has to be relatively normal. There should be some ovulatory issue with the woman. The woman should be not more than 35. She should be between 30 and 35. But I am not a big proponent of IUI, because IUI, you never know what is happening. As he was saying, you inseminate the sperm into the uterus at the time of ovulation. But when the sperms travel inside the fallopian tube, whether they are meeting the egg, all that we don't know, right?
Yeah.
So that is, we are assuming that this thing, or presuming that these things will occur. That's why the success rate of IUI is low. It's 10 to 15% per cycle or per attempt. Though it is a slightly more economical procedure than IVF is. Now in IVF, you are seeing everything under your eyes in the microscope.
Yeah.
You are saying the ICSI, right? So the egg, one sperm is being injected into the egg. You are seeing the embryo developing over the next 3 to 5 days. So you know that this embryo is there. Now you have to just put the embryo in the uterus and then hope that the implantation takes place. Implantation means the embryo catches in the lining of the uterus, so the pregnancy starts, which you know within 2 weeks' time. So this is more scientific.
Okay.
IUI is unscientifically scientific procedure.
More natural.
Yeah, more natural, or you are not aware, what's happening. Here it is more scientific, gives a higher result. So IVF pregnancy rate could go as high up to 50 to 60 or even 70% if it's a younger woman. And if it's just unexplained infertility where all the parameters of the man and the woman all are normal.
Okay.
So that is the sperm criteria is the most important to select whether we do IUI or we do IVF.
Okay.
But I believe that if the woman is 35 or more, or even if it's close to 35, I would, and if there's any amount of decrease in the sperm count, that is oligospermia or astheno means they are not moving so fast as we want them to, then we have to go for IVF.
Okay. And are there underlying conditions that actually may prohibit one to get an IVF? Or
underlying conditions, the most important is the tubal factor. The very first IVF baby that was born in the world, Louise Brown, there is a Netflix TV series called Joy, where it describes how these guys came together to get this baby born, get the pregnancy. So that IVF was done because that lady had a tubal blockage.
Okay.
The mother of Louise Brown had a tubal blockage, and therefore she could not conceive naturally, and therefore IVF was done. So tubal factor is one of the most important factors to consider to do IVF, and low sperm count is one of the most important factors to do ICSI or ICSI. So now nobody does IVF as IVF is. The conventional IVF is now in the background or in the past. Now everybody does ICSI, as he was telling you, intracytoplasmic sperm injection, where under a high magnification, the embryologist takes one sperm
Yes.
and puts into one egg, one sperm into one egg, one sperm into one egg. That way we fertilize the embryos.
Okay, so Dr. Rajesh, this is as a result of the technology that has come up, as you're mentioning about AI. So probably what are the contributions that it has brought in details now to this process of IVF? How technology has come into place?
So now the AI is covering almost all sector of the life, and so now in the field of IVF as well. So now the AI is helping us in. They have been fed with thousands of cases,
Yes.
where now the inference are being made by the AI, and then that the inference now that gives a suggestion to the clinicians and the embryologist to select the particular embryo, and also customized hormonal treatment for patient. Like if now particular case has come, so you can now just feed the AI like this is the case,
Yes.
and based just like a chat GPT,
Yeah.
you know, you put a their prompt, and then you get the answer.
So now it gives you a more targeted solution towards that.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. And when you're talking about accessibility of IVF, and even I know, even before coming to the accessibility, let me just go back to, are there probably success stories for IVF that you guys have handled, especially in Fertility Point? So I don't know who can take that one.
No, we have had so many pregnancies. I mean, I have been here in Kenya since more than 10 years, and I have been in this profession for 33 years now.
Yes.
So we have more than 50,000 children, you know.
50,000.
Yeah, through pregnancies, through IVF, mainly through IVF, because you know, 50% of your, 40% of your IVF patients will get pregnant, and sorry, 50% of your IVF patients will conceive, get pregnant, but 40% will go to deliver a baby.
Okay.
That means live birth.
Okay.
So live birth is the main parameter of success of IVF, not just clinical pregnancy. Anybody can get pregnant,
But carrying
60%,
it
but then you know carrying is a problem. Go through first trimester, go through second trimester, go to the third trimester, and you know very well that IVF can result in twins sometimes or even triplets.
Oh.
So that brings the gestational age down because there is prematurity.
Okay.
So these women will have to be delivered earlier. So they say if full term is 40 weeks, that is 9 months and 1 week, 40 weeks,
Yes.
then the twins generally reduces the pregnancy by 4 weeks. So it's 36 weeks. So at 36 weeks, the twins are mature to be delivered, and triplets go up to 32 weeks if they are lucky. But sometimes they can develop prematurely. I mean, they can deliver prematurely and they have to be put in the incubator.
Yes.
Maybe the weight is below 1 kg, and they have to just be put in the incubator and then hope that they survive. So that is another problem. So live birth is reduced. So by the time you come to full term and live birth, there is a reduction in the pregnancy rate of the so many women who go to live birth.
But what are these challenges that actually make some of them not carry their pregnancy to term?
As I said, one of them is the multiple pregnancy
Okay.
causing prematurity.
Apart from that,
Apart from that, there is a mechanical problem of the uterus where the cervix can give way earlier. Incompetent cervix or cervical insufficiency. So at 18 to 20 weeks when this woman is pregnant, the whole weight of the pregnancy is bearing down on the mouth of the uterus, which is the cervix. And if the cervix is incompetent, it can give way and result in spontaneous abortion or premature delivery. For that, we have to take a cervical stitch. When we recognize such cases, the obstetrician needs to take a cervical stitch so that it closes the gate at around 14 weeks of pregnancy. So that doesn't happen. Then, you know, as I said, there is something called egg donation or embryo donation. This is done for women who are generally higher in age and therefore cannot produce their own eggs. So in such cases, there is a high chance of having toxemia of pregnancy, preeclampsia, and gestational diabetes. So all this can end up in getting your pregnancy not allowing you to go to full term or live birth,
Yeah.
and getting a miscarriage or an abortion.
Okay. And even on that note, we were talking about, one of you mentioned about freezing the eggs. Was it you, Dr. Rajesh? You can also pick this up. Freezing the eggs, at what point do we get to do this? And what condition actually leads to you choosing to freeze your eggs and then now come to try conceiving later? So how does that work?
So freezing the egg, now there are so many celebrities who have frozen the eggs and then later on after completing their...
Celebrities?
Yeah.
Oh. Why have you chosen celebrities?
Yeah. Yes, we have, not Kenya, but in Hollywood and Bollywood, there were like the one actress called Priyanka Chopra. Right? She's an actress in Bollywood, now is even in Hollywood. She had frozen her egg when she was 28 and she conceived at 38.
Oh.
So that is like we do financial investment. So is the egg, it's called like fertility investment. So it's a smarter way to think in that way.
Yeah.
So while you are pursuing your career or studies, you freeze your egg when you are still young, and when the chances of egg converting into the baby is high.
Okay.
Otherwise, if you go for IVF at the age of 40, then take-home baby rate is just 10%.
Now I get you.
So, but when you freeze the egg when you are 28, take-home baby rate is almost 40 to 50%. Okay. So, it's wise to freeze your egg when you are planning to delay your pregnancy for whatever reason. It could be a social reason or family reason or not finding your partner at the right time, that time. So, it's not only the egg that you can consider, even the sperm you can consider for men. Okay. Right? Because there is an andropause also, right?
Yes.
So, this, the ideal candidate for the egg freezings are a cancer patient who are supposed to go for the surgery or for chemo or radiotherapy, where this treatment can damage the ovary or your reproductive organ. So it's better to go for egg freezing or sperm freezing. When you are planning to delay your pregnancy, it's better to freeze your egg. Okay. Now the question comes at what age to consider and how many eggs to freeze. Right? Because sometimes even 20 egg may not be enough. Okay. There are risks of freezing the egg also, right? So the best age is before 28, because after 28 there is a decline in the egg quality. Okay. So you can freeze your egg even at the age of 35, but the chances of genetic problem in the egg would be a bit high. So if egg is frozen at the age of 28 or 30, if you are freezing 10 egg, the chances that you will have a normal egg, a euploid embryo, will be 6 to 10.
So you only need one? Or when it comes to conceiving, you only need one egg?
No, we have to, I'm coming to that.
Okay.
But when you freeze your egg at the age of 40, we get 10 egg, out of 10, only one embryo out of that egg will be euploid. Okay. Right? Yeah. So, and again, there are so many factors. Even if you get a euploid normal embryo, that may not get into the pregnancy. Because as you age, there are other factors. You will be invited, your body will invite so many diseases like fibroids, adenomyosis, which can, despite transferring a good embryo, the uterus may not be able to hold it. So, again, you may need how many baby, you have to answer how many baby you need. So if you are planning for like 3 baby, so 10 egg may not be enough, right? Okay. So that you have to go to a fertility clinic and discuss all these things, that how many, and you have to tell your doctor, I'm planning for 2 baby or 3 baby, and I'm planning after 10 years. So there will be an assessment, not only about your ovarian reserve, also the uterus assessment will be there. Okay. Now suppose you are going at the age of 35 planning for egg freezing, and if there is an associated uterine factor, now egg freezing may not be only solution. Right. So all these things you have to discuss with your fertility doctors.
But you ensure to give your clients personalized consultation and information about what they want.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, the AMH, the ovarian reserves matters. Like at the age of 30, and someone is willing for egg freezing, and AMH is too low, then one cycle of egg collection may not be enough.
Okay.
So one cycle may give 5 or 6 egg, and if you need 10 egg, so you have to go through 2 cycles. So all you have to discuss with your
It's all about
doctors.
the planning. Just like financial investments. You give a good example there. So coming back to accessibility, Dr. Shaunak, and affordability of this process, especially the IVF, could you just enlighten us more about it?
So actually, you know, I mean, a lot of foreign clients also come to our clinic because Kenya, as you know, is a medical hub.
Yes.
So East African, even West African clients, and you know, we have now units all over Kenya. So the coast is also taken care of. Nyanza is also taken care of.
Yeah.
And here in Nairobi we are, you know. So we have in Kisumu and we also have in Mombasa. Very soon our Mombasa clinic is opening. Kisumu is already operational. And we have 2 clinics in Nairobi. One is the main IVF center, which is at Fortis Suits in Upper Hill.
Yes.
And there is another level 1 clinic in Parklands. So we do consultations and everything in Parklands also, and then feed the mother unit. So even the people in Parklands and Westlands can access our clinic in Parklands.
Okay.
So, and you know, as we were talking earlier about this egg freezing and all that, and you were saying personalized consultation.
Yes.
So artificial intelligence can help in that also. Artificial intelligence can create chatbots which can give the patient full information regarding what is happening and what they should go for and when they should go for all these things.
Okay, that makes sense. So, in terms of improvement in research, what is coming up in this IVF treatment?
So you know, things are. When I started doing IVF in 1990s, I mean, things were so. When the first IVF baby was born, that time it was so rudimentary. You know, they had to produce their own media in the laboratory. Media is the liquid in which the eggs are cultured to make embryos.
Yeah.
And then incubators and all that. So everything has changed so much now. Injection protocols, I mean, the way we stimulate the ovaries to produce eggs and get good number of eggs. Right from there up to how we do the fertilization process, how we culture. So new incubators are there. And then he was telling you about time-lapse imaging, where there's a incubator where there's a camera fed inside. So you actually see in real time on the computer how these embryos are changing from day 0 to day 5.
Okay.
And when you feed them into the artificial intelligence database, then that AI tells you whether which is the best embryo or which is the top embryo to be selected. Because in Kenya yet, like the developing world, we still don't have a premium on the number of embryos or the limit on the number of embryos which we can transfer in the uterus. We usually transfer 2 to 3 embryos as of now. But in the Western world or the developed world, you can transfer only a single embryo. So in such cases, you should know which is the best embryo to be transferred or the optimal embryo, and that's where this time-lapse imaging incubators and artificial intelligence will select that embryo for you and you transfer it inside the uterus. Here, many of our couples, patients, they also ask that can we get twins? You know, I mean, first of all, of course, getting pregnancy is a challenge, but then they want twins. So then what we do is we select these embryos. So 2 such embryos, if they are transferred, maybe they get twins at that time. So, you know, this is how we, and the new other thing is laser assisted hatching, which is a new advancement. And I'm very sure when artificial intelligence comes, there'll be so many things happening. Maybe sometimes, you know, we may not need nurse in the OT. Robots will be operating then.
I know, we hope for that soon.
But we cannot replace, you cannot replace the primary surgeon because he's the one who's taking out the eggs. So that you cannot replace. But you know, the accessories can be replaced by robots.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you so much. And even as we're winding up, Dr. Rajesh probably can just address, are there lasting effects to IVF? And lastly, what kind of advice can you give these patients who want to take that route? And in terms of infertility, how just we can make it not seem like a problem in the society, like how can we just put it out there that we have a solution to it, and yeah, they can access it in the best possible way.
So in terms of providing a solution to the infertile couple in Kenya, now we are growing up our centers. So the accessibility can be a bit easier.
Yeah.
We are also coming up with better and easier financial plans. We are already attached to so many insurance companies, including Teachers Commission and Police Service Commission, and there are quite a few number of other insurance like APA and BUPA, and so many.
Okay.
And either they are fully covering the cost or partially covering the cost.
Okay.
So these all probably will help them to go with the IVF treatment. Now the best thing is to seek the infertility treatment while you are still young.
Okay.
We see most of the patients coming at very late age, still with the hope to get pregnant through their own egg. And there is a limitation so far now. There is an age barrier until after, I mean, maybe in future there may be a lab-grown eggs and sperms which can remove this age barrier. But till now there is no such. It is still in the research. So come early and complete your family a bit early. I mean, the career and the family should go parallelly, not like that. I finish this first and then I'll go for the family. I mean, take parallelly. That's the best advice.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for sharing the insights. And where can we get you on your social media platforms?
I think we can fertility point.
Yes. Fertility
Point.
I think
now we are in Facebook,
yeah,
and
Facebook
in TikTok,
and Twitter
and
also.
all the social media. We are there. We have a website, and we have a call center as well.
Okay.
So we'll give you that number for
fine.
display.
You've mentioned
we have a centers in Upper Hill, in Parkland. We have now one in Kisumu.
Yeah.
We are coming up at Mombasa as well. So this.
Okay, there's content there on the social media platforms that people can also follow through to learn more about the processes. Yes. Okay, thank you so much. So as we're winding up the show, thank you so much for joining us from the start until the end. We'll also upload this episode on YouTube at KTN Entertainment in case you missed it. Just a few things that we've mentioned: IVF process, how it goes down, the ovarian stimulation, there's egg retrieval, fertilization, embryo transfer, and finally the pregnancy test, EMFACY. So now you can also go to their social media platforms. You'll find the same in detail, and they're from Fertility Point Kenya. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, people. Until next time, goodbye.